Well, that was violent. Hello people, I am Jaby Koay. I literally just got back from watching Hardcore Henry. That's what we're gonna talk about right now. So that was probably the most violent movie I've ever seen. Heads being blown off right in front of you, guts and heart and, you know, lots of stuff was happening there, and it's from a first-person perspective, so it's not like it's being kind of hidden away from another angle or something like that. It's like right there in your face. It is hardcore. The title is, it's perfect for this movie. Right at the beginning of the movie, they let you know what kind of film this is. With the music in combination with the really intense violence during the opening credits, where they're showing you these different kills and whatnot. It's like, okay, so right away you understand this movie is taking pleasure in the violence. That's what this is about. Don't expect anything different. And so I'm like, okay, you set the stage, you've set the tone, I'm accepting that. But there's a certain threshold where I'm like, I am no longer able to enjoy the violence, and I start to get sick, and that is when heads being blown off in front of your face. Henry was chasing this guy through some town, and then he finally gets a hold of him after a long chase, and the guy goes, I have something I can tell you, then his head blows up, and I'm like, oh God, that was really gross. And anything like that, where like the very last one, I mean, the very last one is more forgivable because it's the last one. It's like you want that guy to die in the most fucked up way possible, and he takes his eye out and he takes the cord and wraps it around his head to decapitate him. Fine. But too much of that, I'm just like, ugh, oh boy. So let's talk about a couple of things. How's the movie overall? I'm of two minds about it. I would say I liked it. I wouldn't say I love it. I wouldn't say I hate it. I would say I liked it. There were definitely moments where I was laughing out loud. There were definitely moments where I was like, whoa, I cannot believe that this is what's happening. Like the stunts in the film were quite amazing. The parkour stuff was pretty incredible. All the things they were able to pull off from this first-person perspective. Hats off to the camera guys who were doing this, the parkour guys. It's pretty incredible. The stunt work was great. The coordination between, you know, the first-person perspective and all the crazy stunts. All the action sequences were amazing. Well, they were amazing, but they weren't always shot well. Like the last fight scene in particular really bothered me. They wanted to amplify the stakes. They wanted to really up the ante, and all that happened was it was a Bourne Identity fight scene from first-person perspective. Now, any of you guys who are familiar with my channel and how I feel about the Bourne Identity fight scenes, I hate the Bourne Identity fight scenes because it's just jarring and I can't really see what's going on. This exacerbates it being from a first-person perspective, and they never bothered to slow it down in the middle of the fight, which would have been nice so that I could appreciate what's happening a little bit more. They wanted to make it feel eccentric and crazy and very, you know, high speed and nuts. So they accomplished that, but after a certain point of just endless crazy shots and crazy cutting and hardcore stuff, it's like, okay, I'm kind of just gonna assume stuff is happening at this point. I don't know exactly what's going on, and I can't appreciate the coordination involved, the stunt coordinators' work, the fight choreographers' work. Everything gets lost in a mesh, and I can't appreciate anything anymore. So I just go, okay, I'm gonna just check out for now and come back when they stop doing this shit. The perfect opportunity to have slowed things down was when he got the adrenaline stuff. This is what's most fresh in my mind because that's the end of the movie. When he got the adrenaline and he pumped it into his legs, they could have done a thing like Max Payne where everything kind of slowed down for him. It's like a fucking video game anyway. It could have slowed down and you could have seen what was going on with a bit more clarity as opposed to it just being more chaos. My favorite sequence, I think, was when he gets on the motorcycle and he's got the minigun and he's blowing up the vans, and it feels so real because it's a first-person perspective. You feel the sensations he's feeling when, like, he gets on top of that last van and he's trying to stomp it, and you see he looks up at the bridge as it's, you know, coming towards him imminently, and he finally drops through. Like, there was so many great moments in the film that it was definitely worthwhile. I am definitely happy that they made this movie. I just wish that they did more with it. I would have to say this movie would get the award for the most on-screen deaths I've ever seen in a film. I can't think of another film besides maybe The Killer by John Woo that has had more on-screen deaths. To address some things that people were saying when the previews were coming out, there's two notions I heard. One was it's like a video game that you don't get to play, and the other is that it was like that Jason Statham movie where he's got to keep recharging himself. And I didn't really make that connection until I watched the movie. I was like, oh, I guess it is kind of like that. Crank is the name of the movie. I would say I enjoyed this more than Crank. You don't get Jason Statham's, you know, personality, which is always fun. It is always fun to have Jason Statham, no matter what he's doing. But I like this more than Crank. And with regards to it feeling like a video game, I did get that sensation, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there was a certain point where I'm like, wow, this is just like a game. Every step of the way, this is pretty much what would happen in a video game, only I'm not using a controller, I'm just watching. Now, that being said, that is not really a valid argument anymore, because we are in an era where people go on YouTube and watch other people play video games. This is a very frequent, normal thing. So every day people are tuning in to watch others play video games. Even if there's no commentary, people are watching playthroughs just because they like to watch playthroughs of games. This is no different, and if anything, this is probably the next step up. It's actually got more production value to it, and the kind of action you're seeing is gonna look way more fucking real, because it totally does, and when people get their heads blown off, it looks real. When they're doing stuff that is gross, it looks real. Great job by Sharlto Copley, by the way, for all the different personalities he was showing in this movie, showing up as these different people, and he was a very, very, very likable character, or characters, plural. He could have been a woman at one point. Why didn't they have him be a woman? We needed more women in the movie. That would have been interesting. But anyway, that's beside the point. Sharlto Copley's performance was amazing. Like, if there was even a slight possible chance of someone getting an Academy Award for an action movie, besides The Dark Knight, I would totally nominate Sharlto Copley, because he did a fan-fucking-tastic job. Like, he was awesome. He was funny. He was likable. He made the movie more worthwhile. After like all the crazy violence, you need someone to break that up with a great personality, and Sharlto Copley totally did it. I like him a lot. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I will pretty much watch anything he's in. I would have liked a little bit more explanation in the story. I was kind of confused, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I'm dense. I didn't really understand the point of the bad guy when he was Magneto, basically. It's like, this dude could basically move shit, and he is dependent on... I don't know why this Hardcore Henry story even exists relative to everything else. I don't know what Henry's function was in this guy's master plan. I'm not quite clear on it, because all he referenced was the initial stage of waking up, and that's the memory that's gonna be implanted into all these different guys, who are then gonna think they're married, and go fight for the main dude. I'm like, I don't, maybe I'm not, maybe it doesn't matter. It's just kind of a convoluted story. The story, I suppose, isn't really the point, but they were trying to have one in the midst of all the action, so might as well make it good and sensible. It didn't make sense to me. That aside, it was a fun ride. It was a very fun ride. Sometimes it grossed me out, but it was a fun ride. Again, I liked this movie. This was cool. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I would watch it again, because it was a little much, especially the third act. It was just like too much chaos going on, but there were definitely funny moments, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm glad I did watch it. I'm glad I did experience it. So if you haven't seen it yet and you're watching this anyway, I would say go watch it. Go check it out. I give it a lot of points just for existing, though. So many points just for existing, because there's no other movie like it. Don't eat right before watching it in case you've got a queasy stomach, or if you're... It's not for the faint of heart. Let's just put it that way. It's a pretty violent movie. Maybe the next step up of this is shooting it with more cameras so you can get a full kind of three-dimensional experience, and you can watch it with VR goggles or something. I don't know. That would be cool. And then it wouldn't feel like you're kind of trapped in this box thing. That's all, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to me rant about this movie. I hope you guys watched it. If you haven't, go watch it. Hopefully you guys enjoy it more than I do. But I still liked it. I'm Jaby Koay. Please subscribe if you have not already, and check out other reactions, movie reviews, short films, and gameplay throughs. Peace out.